Messing up. I know that all of us realistically mess up at a point of our life. And no, this video isn't just to be Captain Obvious and say that. But instead, I want to explore, why are we so afraid of failure, and why do we handle failure in such an ineffective and almost in an unhealthy way, right? Because if we do understand that failure is just a way for us to grow, if we understand that failure is inevitable, shouldn't that give us more reassurance? But oftentimes that doesn't become the case. And I feel like there's something deeper. I don't want this video to undermine people's pain, because I know that failure can often come from a really dark place in our lives. Therefore, I want to discuss with you guys why there is some fear that is instilled within us when we confront failure, and how we're able to cope with that. So I think collectivistically, when we mess up, it kind of comes into two different forms. I think that we have to look at failure both in an interpersonal and an intrapersonal way. And so let's start with interpersonal. Interpersonal is your connections with other people. It doesn't necessarily have to just be with close people. It can either be with strangers. I think that oftentimes in an interpersonal way, when we deal with failure, it can be really, really scary because we're afraid of disappointing other people. But if we look deeper into this idea of disappointment, regardless if it is someone that you love or someone that you do not love, we're afraid of the consequences that disappointment can bring. Oh, is this person not going to respect me? Oh, is this person going to think less of me? These emotions that we feel like will be tainted if we don't show the best versions of ourselves can be a way that can be hindering us from our successes, from positive mindset, because that is what is instilled within us when combating fear. Now, going on towards that, I think it's really important to understand that consequence is very important. When we make mistakes, accountability is really important, right? We need to stay accountable for our own mistakes. But oftentimes that can be very hard, especially with interpersonal relationships, because we can't control their reactions. They may not accept us, they may not bring us back. And the fear that we have ultimately is ruining something precious to us. I often find this other category, this other root in our fears of failure to be stemmed from more people that we're close with, people that we really look up to. And that's the scary part. However, regardless of failure, it's all about accountability. Now, on the flip side is intrapersonal. And I get it. Intrapersonal is what is within. I think that something as we humans fear is kind of the fact that our hope diminishes in situations. I know that sounds really crazy because everyone's like, what? Hope? What are you talking about? But we really do thrive on hope as a humanity. As idealistic as that sounds, that is actually what a lot of people thrive on. And because hope is something that we try to grapple on, when that starts to diminish, when we start to feel discouraged, and that hope, that beam that we see kind of seems more far away, or seems to look as if it is diminishing, it seems to be very discouraging, and that can really cause turbulence in our own foundations within ourselves. To add on to that, I think that a lot of it also has to do with when we undergo failure, we often attach that to our identity. Another thing that I think can tie off to the whole diminishing hope and failure attachment in an intrinsic way is how we can attach a lot of extrinsic achievements and extrinsic, I guess, factors into our life, into our identity. I think there needs to be a distinct dissonance between our identity versus our achievements, and sadly, that is not something that is preached in our modern society. I feel loads of compassion for people who really do struggle through this. I think that this is something real. I think that there is a lot more than just a simplified version of something, you know, like I understand that this is something much deeper, and I just want everyone to understand that a lot of the times when we feel this fear, it is because we attach that. And once we understand that, we can really start on working on where we can combat these emotions. But now I get it, right? I've just spoken all about these things and you guys are like, what is Christine trying to get to? And I think the main arching, I guess, theme in all of this is that a lot of our failure can be rooted in pride. Pride! Woohoo! Which is like pretty much being proud and all of that. And I know what you guys are thinking. What? No, it's not my pride. Or yes, maybe it is. Regardless if you agree or disagree, I think that there is that element of pride. I think that this is a completely different video that I will be making on in the future. But I guess just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a teaser of this subject, that there is a definite difference between pride versus confidence. And I think that it is important that when you're often in a position where you're dealing with failure in a negative way, you're in a position of pride, not confidence. And your pride is often linked to something external. I think that true confidence comes from inert. True confidence doesn't come from needing to prove yourself, needing to prove your worth. And I am not here to talk bad or try to oversimplify or say anything bad about people's pain, because I get it. I've been in your shoes. I understand that position of like wanting to do your best and always wanting to, you know, go to the next and the next and the next and the next. And that in and of itself is pretty darn difficult. But at the same time, I think that I cannot let my emotions guide me into justifying things that might hurt me. And I think that part of, even just through experience or even just kind of talking with like my friends and like my loved ones and just kind of seeing kind of, I don't know, just reflecting, has just allowed me to kind of realize that pride is more something that is attached to something external, not something internal. And if we really want to combat failure, or at least coping with negative ways, we need to understand that. So with that being said, how are we able to do that? Answer to your question is that it's not kind of like a tips video where I can say, oh, if you use Epsom salt and a little bit of sugar and spice and everything nice, you will get what you want. Because no, that's not how this goes. And I know that oftentimes, if I haven't stressed it enough, that in a sense failure kind of attaches to our low self-esteem. And we need to combat that, right? And that's not going to go overnight. So here, I guess, are a little bit of perspectives that you can adopt throughout the process. Number one, I think the importance is to understand that you can be accountable for your mistakes. And as much as that can be terrifying, I think that gives you a lot of power on your hands, understanding that you have the power to your reactions, you have the power to actually create a lasting change in your life without letting it hold you back. The second thing I honestly think is being easy on yourself. Just like failure comes, it takes time and healing, and I don't want this video to ever seem as though I am trying to trump anyone's emotions, because failure in and of itself is a very hard thing to deal with, and I understand the emotional turmoil that it can bring. That is why I'm creating this video, right? Because I want to help you guys. I want to bring this as a source where you guys can know how you guys feel. Because in order to solve a problem, you need to know the root of it before you can even conquer it. And so given that you've kind of utilized these tools, utilize it, but give yourself a break. Be easy on yourself. And remember that it takes time and to be patient. Another thing that I feel like is super duper important that I feel like not a lot of people say enough is that healing is not a waste of time. I feel like a lot of people have this notion that healing yourself is such a waste of time, that you're not doing anything for yourself, but in reality, you're doing so much to help yourself grow and be a healthier individual. In the past, I used to be so like hustle, 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 and like always on the grind. But like I've come to respect a more slower lifestyle, and I've come to respect a lot of people who actually were able to not balance so much things, but actually have time for themselves. And I really do respect that, and I want you guys to not be so hung up on that mindset that society tends to endorse, on that idea of like being in this fast lifestyle, but rather just kind of understanding that a slow lifestyle is okay, because that is ultimately the healthiest route when you're going through these things. I also think it's really important to understand that failure is fleeting, right? Failure is inevitably not something that will define you. It may be a pivotal part of your life. It might just be, you know, a fraction, maybe a little bit of a chapter of your life. But that does not mean that it means that it is your life. If you feel insecure about yourself, please understand that these failures do not define you. As cheesy as that sounds, I think I needed that plug-in because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of, as I said before, our prides can get damaged when we're in that position. So stay strong, my dudes. Wow, that was a voice crack. And my final last advice, but it's to always remember that failure is what grows you. I always think that when I have a negative experience or an emotion or just something of those regards in my life, I always look at it as a storm. And as we know, you know, the thunder, the rain, you know, the lightning, all of that, it just goes on and on and on. And, you know, regardless of my personal opinion of liking storms actually as the weather in and of itself, in this context, let's say it's bad. And when the storm clears, I always remember that when the sun hits, there's always a rainbow that comes at the end of it. And I know that sounds cheesy, but when I look at it in that way, it really brings into a lot of perspective that it's a very realistic approach of looking at life. I know that life is always going to have storms, and I know life is always going to have a rainbow as a byproduct. I also love the fact that my rainbow can be completely subjective to another person, meaning even if, worst case scenario, that I don't get anything out of my failure, like I guess like my dream or whatever, or like I don't know, whatever you anticipated but it never came even through your failures, you know how much you learn from it, and it's never an ever changing process. You're going to continuously grow. I often find that sometimes even when I am discouraged and when I find a storm and then my rainbow is just what I learned from my failures, I'm like, really? It's not the product that I wanted, but ultimately the rainbow and the experiences and the wisdom that I gain allow me to make the biggest rainbow that I can ever make. I know that sounds really idealistic, but my point is, I think that all of you guys should understand that, you know, it's not an idealistic romanticization of like, oh, you get your rainbow at the end, because it's life, and when you're in life, it's never gonna just coast through, right? But just remember that every storm always has a rainbow, just as the rainbow is always created by the storm, and you just have to think of that process in order to realistically look at it long term, to always just stay strong through that. Thank you so so much for watching my channel, my video, and for continuously supporting this. I know I haven't been frequent in my uploads, and I do apologize. I feel like there's just so much happening right now, especially for a lot of people, and I am no exception to that rule, but it is fine. And honestly, I'm just trying to really focus on making sure that whatever content I bring to you guys is something worth of something authentic, something worth that is helpful and really true from within. And so why did I do that? That like looked like an attack, but I swear I was just like, I don't know what that was. My point that I'm trying to say is that I want to make as much as content that I can for you guys, but I also do want to make sure that any content I make is of good quality. But with that being said, I hope you guys loved this video, and thank you guys so much for supporting the Reset series. I've honestly been so like happy about like how it's been going so far, and it's just been such a beautiful process to kind of see how, you know, you guys have just been supporting and just seeing a lot of people, you know, in my personal life, or you know, just even without just being a good support system. So thank you so much. With that being said, I do want to support you guys in this journey, and so I am actually hosting a Q&A for a video in my Reset series because it is coming to an end, and so I do want to finalize it as a little bit of a party with you guys and just have a great time with you guys, you know, like we can bond. And so yeah, so make sure to comment down below any advice, questions that you would like about change, or any questions about my channel in particular if you guys want to know that. And also, this is just like a temporary question, but are you guys like perhaps interested in vlogs? Like, I don't know, I had a friend talk to me about vlogging, and I was like, I'm not really a vlogger, but my channel's open. I'm not gonna box myself. So in case you guys are kind of like wanting vlogs, I can maybe try for you guys and not always do sit down videos, but let me know in the comments down. And with that being said, thank you so much for everything, and signing off.